Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Chakra Way Meditation Podcast. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Sumsion, who is a Reiki healer and workshop facilitator. So welcome, Fee. Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, we connected on Instagram, which is always a really lovely place to meet people who you vibe with. And I love all your content. It's so beautiful and so natural, and it feels very heartfelt, all of your content and what you do, which is why, I wanted to speak to you, because I think we overlap on a lot of things. Whilst you're a Reiki healer, you seems like your work focuses quite a lot on chakras and chakra work and chakra healing. So tell me a little bit about how you got to be where you are today and how you found Reiki.
So Reiki for me started, I very first had it when I was having a facial, and the lady doing the facial sort of said, "Oh, can I do some Reiki?" And I just sort of thought, "Oh yeah, fine." Didn't really know what it was. And then that kind of just happened. I never really thought much about it. And gradually I've overheard people talking about Reiki, and I think, oh, I did sort of have that once, but I never really knew much about it.
Mm.
And so a few years ago, I sort of looked more into it, and decided to start having it myself. And I just found it so um, relaxing, and things that was coming away from it, I wasn't expecting it to be that. I thought it would be like, how you go for a massage and you just come out and feel nice for treating
Yeah,
yourself. But it was everything that happened at such a deeper level. And it was, things that were being channeled to me during Reiki, visions I would get, things that the practitioner would pick up on, and just feeling that energy physically shift in my body. Because I think I just accommodated it and not really knew what it was before. It was like
yeah,
I would hold things in my heart and I would just feel this sort of dense pressure in my chest. But because I'd become so used to feeling it, when it was sort of shifted and taken away, I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And I think the more you have it, the more you get out of it as well. So for me, when the lady that was who I used to go to, she trained as a Reiki master. And it was one of those things like, yeah, I just had to be attuned to it and sort of go. It kind of clicked then that was the path I was supposed to take.
yeah. I mean, I have experienced Reiki a couple of times, and I think that the experiences that I've had have been really lovely, relaxing, but I haven't done enough of it. I feel like you need to get attuned to it, like you say, and go a few times. And I'm already talking to you thinking, I must go back and see that lovely lady that I was seeing in Norwich. And but I think to the uninitiated, it's kind of a strange thing, because you lie there, you don't get touched, you get some crystals placed upon you maybe or around you, but the energy transfer from the hands is extraordinary, and sometimes you can feel it and sometimes you can't. And I know I've talked to people who go, oh, it's just a load of wafty hands, they're not even putting their hands on you, so how can they possibly do anything? So how do you explain it to people who just sort of dismiss it as a silly, well, not silly, but as something a bit woo-woo and not kind of tangible? How do you justify yourself? It's a bit of a
No,
mean question, isn't it?
well, yeah. I mean, it's not for everybody. Some
Yeah.
people just they're just very closed off like that, and that's just
Mm,
just who they are in this lifetime.
yeah.
For me, I just say try it before you judge it, because you
Mm,
don't, it is, and it's different every time as well, because our energy changes so much. We go out every day and we're constantly picking up other people's energy and situations around us, and that gets stored, and sometimes we process it, sometimes we store it. So even when I have clients that come back, you know it will be a different experience every time because of
yeah.
how their energy is and how it's shifting. But for me, I guess I just say to people, yeah, just try it. It's very relaxing. If anything, it's just nice to give yourself that time to just rest and just be, even if you don't get
Feel a
anything
whole lot of
out
stuff.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how does
But
it feel for you as you when you're doing a healing session on somebody? I mean, obviously your hands are your healing tools, which is, which is beautiful. I think everybody knows this sort of this, it's a minor chakra, but I kind of feel of the minor chakras, this is one of the main minor chakras, if that you
yeah.
probably agree with
Mhm.
that. But how does it feel for you when you're doing a session with somebody? What are you actually feeling, and is it sort of feel like it's channeling through you, or
Yeah,
more physical?
it can be. So um I kind of I ask my client to let go of any expectation, and just fully relax, and then I kind of just see where I feel like I'm drawn to, because I'll get drawn to different chakras. I don't have like a method of where I start from the top or work my way down or whatever. I just kind of feel into where I'm being drawn to first. And sometimes I might not even pick things up in that area straight away. But it's just moving around the body and feeling. But sometimes it's just moving that hand just ever so slightly in one place. And it can be like a tingling sensation. Um, so I can usually really feel when someone's chakra is quite overactive, because I'll
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel like this sort of tense, slowing down pressure moving through me, as if I'm really trying to like slow them down. But then other times it's like if they've got like a real block and a shift, it's just more like a wavy, tingly sensation. And I've had my hands like pins and needles in my hands sometimes. I've just got really hot and then really cold. So yeah, all different kinds of feelings and sensations come up. But then it's really interesting when you talk to them after, when they've come around and sort of just said, well, how was that for you? What did you feel? And
Mm.
their feeling. So like, say if it's, I don't know, on the heart and I'm getting like real tingles, what that was like from their perspective as well. Yeah, it's amazing. It's really interesting.
It is. It's a beautiful practice. And, as somebody who works with chakras, we both work with chakras. We're both like intimately, we know a lot about them. We sense them. We use them in our daily lives. It's really interesting that we come at it from a slightly different perspective, but we still get that that support, I suppose, and that knowledge, and it becomes, it does become quite instinctive. But that energy that is held there, we can't deny that that energy is there. And it's, once you know about the chakras, it feels so right and so true that it's undeniable. And, once you've got that understanding of what you're holding in your energy centers, it's such an incredible tool to have. So do you kind of educate your clients when they come to you and you go, oh, your solar plexus chakra is a bit underactive? Do they go, huh, what? And then you have to kind of fill them in. How do you deal with that?
So my clients are, there's a real range. So some are very spiritual people, and they kind of understand the chakras. Others, it's more like something they're trying out, they're quite new to, they don't really, it's more to come to relax, and just to, I guess, just let go,
Mm.
rather than knowing each chakra. And I think there is a difference with people like that, because especially with the higher chakras, because it's more that connection um to source, and the crown, the third eye, having that. If you're more of a spiritual person, it'd be very different to someone who's not really aware of things like
Yeah,
that.
if
But
it's
when
not
you
open.
break it down and you explain it all, and which what each chakra governs, they can kind of relate to it in what in their life. So whether it's self-worth, confidence, um, can explain to them about the solar plexus, um, and root chakra. I've had people that have had you know a blockage or some sort of imbalance there, and it might be that they're in the process of moving house or changing job, and it's kind of when they understand the connection there, it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. Yeah.
Now I get it. No, it's wonderful. And I agree. I think just having that awareness, for me, when I'm teaching my clients about the chakras, I say, listen, I'm giving you this awareness, I'm giving you this knowledge, and now it's up to you. Like, it's like giving somebody a map and going, right, now you kind of know where you are, off you go, because it is such a personal journey, and it is, and as you say, the energy changes day to day. If I'm doing a chakra reading, I'll tell somebody, this is your energy just today. Like something might have happened this morning or yesterday that's in your energy today, but it may not be long term. The long held things, I can't tell whether the energy within you is something that happened this morning or happened when you were 10 years old. So there's very much a sort of sense of ownership of your healing when you understand the chakras, which I think is really empowering. Like that's the thing that I love about that knowledge and having that understanding. And so when I love your Instagram is Reiki and Wild. So talk to me a little bit about your your concept, your Reiki and Wild, because it's beautiful. You're very sort of nature based, and I adore that.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, Reiki and Rewild.
Rewild, sorry.
Rewild, that's okay. So that kind of it's both things that I'm really passionate about. So obviously Reiki, my healing that I love, but Rewild is all about my passion for rewilding, and that is that's us moving back into more of an ancestral way of living. So when you think about how, going back to like Neolithic times, people were very connected to the land. And as we've evolved, we've become very disconnected. And it's just trying to embody those practices within our life, especially in the modern world where it is very difficult. But just, taking time to spend time in nature, following the moon cycle, the seasons, and looking at, how before we would change our behaviors to accommodate these changes around us. So, winter, we would retreat, we would spend a lot of time going inwards, and it's a very reflective time. Whereas spring is more about, you're planting your seeds of intention, and there's a lot of potential. So we're really starting to think ahead and embody that in our life. Where do we want to go? What do we want, the next part of our journey to look like? And bringing that into summer when we're sort of living in our fullness, and then again beginning to let go and just let everything decay that's no longer serving us as we like sort of move through autumn. And it's just embodying those themes, and embracing nature, and being, we are beings of earth, we are part of nature, we are a species. And it's remembering that, because I think a lot of the work with the spiritual side, it's very much like in our heads and connected to angels and spirit guides and all of that, but then it's also having that reminder that we are actually, this is our human experience, and it's very much grounding and connecting us to the earth.
I think that's so beautiful, because also within that seasonal shifts that we go through every year, there is a moon cycle, every month, which also takes us up and down on a journey. Plus you've then got all the astrology side of things. Now I am it's really interesting, because I used to be somebody who was like, I just don't get it. I don't understand the astrology side of things. And now I'm beginning to really go, oh, I see. Okay. And I don't know enough, but I don't tend to know anything at all, really. But I know how can it not be? As you said, we are part of this universe. Everything is influenced by the energy. I mean, just look at all the look at all the stuff that was going on around the solar flares a few weeks ago. I know that in my kind of group that I was aware of, people who are very spiritually connected, people were like, whoa, this is madness. There's people were either like super energized or they were completely flattened. And even people who weren't in that sort of sphere, they go, God, I'm exhausted at the moment. And I go, well, do you know why? It's the solar flares, you know. So there's a lot that comes into to living in a really authentic way. And like you say, we're not that far away from being those, you know, Neolithic, or, you know, those people who did, you know, live by the earth, live with the earth, and worshipped the earth, Mother Nature, Gaia. And I think we ignore that at our peril. And I think that is the age that we are in, where I'm hoping that people are getting more back in touch with that sympathetic, nurturing energy. And you know, then that brings me on to the thing that one of the things I wanted to talk to you about as well is exploring the divine feminine within us. So I know, you know, I do that through meditation, through my yoga practice, and through, you know, honoring that. And when we say the divine feminine, everybody, whether you're man, woman, or somewhere in between, has a divine feminine aspect within them. So how do you work with that in your work? How do you bring that out?
So I feel like we live in a very, very masculine society, and it's about bringing in these practices that remind us that we have two sides to us. And the feminine side it's all about nurturing ourselves. It's about a lot of love and care, and it brings us into balance again. I think, you know, the masculine is very much about doing, and feminine is very much about being. And I think when you have both of them in harmony, we feel more balanced. But I think doing too much of something is it makes us feel imbalanced. And I love sitting in circle and talking about it. These are real feminine practices, being in circle and sharing stories and experiences. And I think it's become something that we've become so disconnected from. I think that came from, you know, things like the witch trials and the burning times. It was, you know, women weren't encouraged to gather because it would, you know, you'd get killed for witchcraft. And, you know, other women then turned on each other. We were forced to like go and tell, you know, oh, she's talking about healing this way, instead of going to a doctor, and they'd get burnt for it. And I think then that's where we've all got this fear now of being judged and sharing too much. And now we're coming back into bringing these practices back in and talking more openly, sharing our experiences. And that can be anything from a small circle gathering in your local community, and it's been playing out as a collective, you know, things like the Me Too movements and women coming and finding their voices and speaking up again, because we need that equality, we need that balance. And so that's what I'm really sort of, that's how I see it, that's how I interpret it. And I think a lot of us are living in our masculine because it is very much, that's the way society is. You know, we're 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, go, go, go. If you
be
you know,
productive,
it's not,
get stuff
you
done.
have to be. We're here to produce constantly. And actually sometimes it's like, yep, I get it's a Monday morning, but I just need to be still for a bit. And you know, but you can't, you just can't get away with it at the moment, unfortunately.
And it's a difficult one, because in our society, in order for the root chakra to be balanced and safe, so i.e. to have what you need to survive, so food and shelter and water and clothes and money to buy all of those things, in order to be safe, you have to go into this part of society that will provide you with that money, essentially. And so we end up having to really draw out all of our energy out of the solar plexus energy in order to put ourselves out there. And we have to put ourselves out there in not a comfortable way. And I think people forget that it was really only, I don't know, you're a bit younger than me, but I remember I was sort of a teenager in the 80s. And that whole I remember, I don't know why it's just popped into my head. Do you remember? You probably never watched it. It was a movie called oh my God, what was it called? Working Girl. And it was a Melanie Griffiths movie where she was a, you know, Brooklyn girl, and she had you know, and her boss was a woman. And it was her climbing up the career ladder and becoming successful. And, you know, the sort of the physical transformation that she went from being quite a girly girl and sort of, you know, bit silly and ditzy, to wearing these sharp suits with the shoulder pads and the serious thing, and the, you know, and like this transformation that you had to do. And that was in the 80s. In my lifetime, that a woman going into a man's world, oh, that was a big old battle. That was like something worth making a film about, you know. And it was a big film. I don't know why that's coming to my head. The spirit guy is obviously just going, have that one. But I think that we underestimate how far we've come in such a short period of time in terms of where we are. And I think that we need to, A, give grace to that, but B, think, oh my goodness, if we've come that far since the 80s, which, okay, is 40 years ago, but still, like, what progress can we make? Because life is speeding up. You know, what progress can we make in the next 10 to 20 years in terms of bringing that equality of the feminine? And I'm not talking just to women and men, but that feminine energy, that beautiful, soft feminine energy that men, and I think there are more men beginning to embrace that and understand that they need that as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, you know, it's little boys. So people, you know, people that are my age, when they were boys, for example, they would be told to stop being such a sissy, you know, if you cry, and
girl, yeah,
stop being a big girl's blouse, things like that. Exactly. Just really cruel things to say to a boy, because then I think, you know, that's where they automatically think, oh, I've got to be a man, I've got to lock up my emotions. And women would be told we're too emotional. And it's, yeah, I think there's now more of an understanding of this, and people are starting to say, actually, no, these are not okay things to say, because men need to cry. Like, it's important that they, you know, honor that aspect of themselves, their emotions, because they are there, and not suppress them. And I think it's filtering out into everything. I mean, even in the corporate world, you know, a lot of the big companies, they are bringing in that more feminine aspect in terms of staff well-being. A lot of companies are really looking after their staff's mental health, whether that's having things in-house or changing their benefits. And a lot of them have like these ESG kind of environmental governance programs now, where they're giving back to local communities. They're doing things like staff away days, where they do a park cleanup, or lots of different things. So I think it is filtering out. It's happening gradually. It probably could be a bit quicker, and I think, you know, it's only going to get more, and hopefully things like governments will start doing more. Yeah, we'll see. I think it's exciting. I think there's a lot of, like, I feel like it's shifted, and now it's just ready to explode, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. I feel that very strongly, and I hope that it's not just me, because I'm in this world and so I connect with more people like that. I feel like, you know, when you go out into the real world, if you like, you know, and you talk about the things that you and I do, people are, you know, I mean, I used to you know, I remember like 20 years ago when I would say I'm a yoga teacher, I'm training to be a yoga teacher, people would be like, they wouldn't even know really what yoga was, you know, they would be like, and the same, you know, if I say I have a course about the chakras, people go, what are the chakras? You know, I don't understand. And I think people are becoming more au fait with this side of the world. Again, ditto with Reiki and things like that. I think there's just much more visibility, and I think that's one thing that we can say thank you to social media for, but because there are a lot of people out there putting out really beautiful content that shows people that there is a way to be and a way to think and a way to heal themselves. They don't have to just kind of exist in this kind of momentum driven, productive driven world.
That's it. And even, you know, how we care for ourselves, things like meditation, Reiki, whether it's going for any kind of holistic therapy, having that understanding, you know, so we're so encouraged usually to just go and take a pill and to just get over it, but it's like actually just really stripping things back and thinking like, where's this issue coming from? You know, whether, even if it's just something like a headache, you know, am I fatigued because I've been doing too much? Have I been working too hard? Maybe I actually just need to take a day and rest. But we don't. We take a tablet and go back to work.
No, we outsource all of our internal stuff. Basically, we give away our power. And I'm not saying, you know, and I say this every time I talk to a healer, you know, I'm not saying that Western medicine doesn't have its place, because it certainly does. But, you know, there is quite a lot of places in our lives where we give away our power over our own beautiful bodies to, you know, the scientists who tell us they know best, when in fact we do have everything we need. And that actually leads on quite nicely to the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about, which I find really fascinating, is that the healing power of ceremony. And I know that you do cacao ceremonies, and I've seen from your workshops that there seems to be a kind of a beautiful ceremony kind of, you know, I've seen the pictures and it's beautiful. You've got herbs and candles and all of this delicious stuff going on. So I want you to talk to me about the kind of the role of ceremony in your life and your world, and also specifically about the cacao ceremony and what that means.
So I love being in ceremony. For me, it's something that it just brings me so much joy, and every time it's different, and you know, you get the same faces, you get new faces. It's a real mix, and I try and mix up the themes of mine. So I've run like chakra balancing workshops where I've kind of gone really deep into each chakra individually. So I did a third eye one last week, and that was really lovely, you know, really talking all about our intuition. And that was really, really nice. I do zodiac theme ones every month, so when we move into a new season. So I just had the Taurus one, and that was really special as well. And the cacao is it's a sacred plant medicine, so it comes from South America. And you know, we sit and we set our intention, and we drink the cacao, and I always kind of center it around a theme, usually something that's going on either astrologically or just within the collective, you know, that people seem to be picking up on. And it's just a really lovely, it's very heart opening. So the way it works is it's full of loads of yummy antioxidants, and it's very bitter. It doesn't taste like chocolate that we have in the shop here. No, it's very like sort of bitter taste, but it's lovely. And the way it works is that it really opens our heart, it gets the blood moving round, and we just have this very peaceful feeling, and it just allows us to like open up and sort of express ourselves a bit more, which again we don't really do that much, or we have a real fear around doing. It kind of takes a bit of prompting. And so just spending time in circle, and just exploring deep, again, really feminine practices, and whether that's about what's going in our bodies, our minds, our spirit, and just opening up and sharing and feeling that sort of connection together.
So you kind of, when you're leading a ceremony like cacao ceremony, is it you I'm guessing that you are led very much by your intuition in terms of how that ceremony goes? And
I don't like having too much structure around things, so I have sort of like themes that are going on, and sort of open up conversation, and then usually things just flow, you know, they just flow nicely. And I like that. I like just seeing what comes up for everybody, because
So
you know,
you sit in this beautiful environment, you sit in a circle, you present everybody with their cup of cacao, and you sit and you drink it, and then you talk, and just whatever comes up. And I'm just guessing,
yeah,
is that how it works?
so I will have some like journal prompts
Mm.
for people. So usually like there is a kind of theme around it. So say okay, so I'm doing a full moon event on the 7th of May. The full moon is in Scorpio and it peaks around the 5th. So I'm doing a cacao full moon thing. So it's all about releasing and letting go. And Scorpio energy is very much, it governs transformation. It's sort of like the death of the ego. It's quite sexual and sensual. So it's kind of, I'll bring prompts, journal prompts around those themes into it, and it's just opening up that conversation. So, you know, maybe it's something you want to release around, I don't know, maybe you've been feel like you've been stuck in this like you've been put in a box, and you just feel like you're not really resonating with that person anymore. You feel like you're transforming in yourself. I don't know, maybe it's like an archetypal shift from maiden to mother, or yeah, you're just becoming into this new way of being, and you kind of want to let go of that. So that's really about Scorpio. It's saying, like, I'm moving away from this, it's no longer serving me. And that's very full moon as well, you know, releasing what's no longer
Yeah,
serving and
yeah.
ready to move on. And you know, when we do that in ceremony, we can talk about it and, you know, see what that might look like, and listen to other people's stories around that, because you know, people will be at different points in their journey, and it's just sharing the experience of it.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
It sounds beautiful. It really does. And they're all in person. You don't do, I mean, obviously you can't do a cacao ceremony online because you have your cacao, but you're based in Essex in England, right? So lucky people who live in Essex, because I tell you, if I was closer, and in fact, I'm even thinking like I would quite like to come to your full moon on the 7th. It sounds amazing. Because I think that this coming together full ceremony in a purposeful way is, you know, is so powerful. You know, when we bring our intention together with our energy, with our power of intention and word as well, spoken word, affirmationary words, if that's the word in itself. You know, positive words of affirmation with intention holds such a huge amount of power. And when we come together to do that, it is exponentially greater and more powerful. And so I hope and want everybody to kind of gather to do these things, because also, you know, when you go to a ceremony like yours, I imagine that people come because they're interested in what you do, and then they meet kindred spirits and they make new friends and new connections. And what a beautiful way to do that.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's, you know, they come in and they share their story, and there's, so for some people it's quite a lot for them to do that, but then I think there's that relief at the end of it. And then when you get talking and listening to other people as well, and hearing their stories, and you know, if there's a connection there, it might be people in the same situation, or someone that's moved through that and has shared their experience of it. And it's just nice thinking, like, a lot of people say, you know, oh, I didn't think many people were into this. Like, it's just so nice. And yeah, I think when it's one of your very first experiences, it's kind of like you realize there is a real community there. And it's nice. It's really
And
nice
this
to connect
again,
with
that's
people on that
something that
level.
I think it's something that in this modern world we don't have enough of. You know, there are some places, and you know, I'm not denying that there are places where you can find community, but it's not as strong or as ingrained in society as it used to be. And you have to, rather than just sort of like, well, you're part of the village, so you're part of the community, you actually have to be proactive in going out there and finding your community and creating those connections, which isn't easy for everybody. You know, I'll be the first to say I find that, you know, if I move to a new place, you know, if I was to move to a completely different county, the first thing that I would probably do is try and find a group like you know, people, like-minded people. And what a special way to make new friends and new connections. I think it's really, very
it's
important.
lovely. But there's a big online community as well.
True.
I mean, like there's lots of circles that run online spaces, and that's really nice. And you know, like you were saying earlier with Instagram, like there's so much content on there with you know stuff. So whatever, for some people they do feel better, you know, just doing it digitally. They don't want to, maybe, I don't know, it might be too confronting for them at that time to go into circles, especially, you know, I hold very small circles. I don't like big crowds. I don't like too much energy. So I try and keep my groups really small and really intimate. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of different resources, and there's more and more coming up as well. You know, there's lots of things popping up all the time, all over. So it's exciting. Yeah,
it is exciting. So Fee, tell people how they can get hold of you and whereabouts you are, a little bit more specifically, so that the lucky people of Essex can come and find you.
So I am in Rayleigh in Essex, and I run workshops sort of around my local area, and sort of out and about in Essex. I do a few different things, and I'm online. I have my Instagram page, which is at Reiki and Rewild, and then I do have a website as well, which I've only just got, and I'm still really getting used to it. I'm not one for tech at all, so this is my new thing.
It's a challenge, isn't it? For those of us who are like in the spiritual realm, like the tech thing is like at the other end of the spectrum. Can be a challenge to kind of marry the two together. So well done.
It's massively out my comfort zone. And I do want to hold more space online, and the idea is that the website is going to be the start of that. I just need to sort of step into my masculine a bit more, I guess, and get doing things.
Sometimes sometimes we've got to do that, unfortunately, but it's good to get things done, feel pleased with yourself, retreat back into the feminine, and then go.
That's it. But I would like to hold online circles. That is the plan. So for people that aren't in Essex, it's something to look out for. And I will do it. It's just I've just got to step into my masculine first.
Well, that's good to hear, because you know, the majority of my listeners are in America. So it's nice that you have, you know, that people can, first of all, they can find you and just pick up on your energy through your Instagram, because that is beautiful. And I love your content, like your comment, you know, your what do you call it, you know, the bit that you write underneath the beautiful picture is always really full of value. And I think that is definitely. So please, I'll put a link to your Instagram and to your website in the show notes. And and I encourage everybody to just, you know, to go to follow Sfi and to investigate finding, you know, a local ceremony circle, your local Reiki practitioners. You know, they're all over the place. So go find them, have a session, just tap into it and see, because this balancing of the chakras through Reiki is kind of like it's a nice little shortcut to just get yourself fixed, but it's also an introduction into that learning of understanding the self. Do you think that's a fair thing to say?
Yeah, I think it's just sort of dipping your toes in, and then you can do the deep dive when you're ready.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Fee. I've really loved connecting with you. It's been beautiful, so thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.